Hello, welcome back. Mike from Canavan Wealth. It's Mike reads the journal, March 21st. It is a miserable day here in Idaho. Nothing like 4 inches of snow at the end of March. But let's jump into the news. Start with the markets, of course. S&P 500 for the week. Go over to percentage here. About 1.6. Market today is doing real well. We expect comments from the Fed today, so we'll see how that ends. For year to date, percentage wise, up about 3.85. Obviously, this is all driven right now around what's going on with the banking industry and expectations for interest rates. I wish I had more news on the banking industry. I probably will in the next week or two do a what's going on with the banks kind of part two, cover what's happened with Credit Suisse, First Republic Bank, and kind of the banking industry as a whole instead of just Silicon Valley Bank and what's been going on there. But I think right now we're really kind of in a holding pattern to see how bad it's going, if it's going to get much worse, whether that happens. The markets do not appear to think it's going to get worse, but we'll have to see. And I think the Fed decision on Wednesday is going to be very important. Kind of an interesting week for news. There's lots to cover, but at the same time, a lot of it's that same story of kind of waiting to see. So I covered this in my most recent Q&A about Russia and China. So Xi Jinping has visited, and spoke with Putin and talk about their ties. I think the biggest thing out of this is that there was really no impact on the Ukraine war here. So no major talks, at least publicly, about Xi Jinping trying to pressure Putin to end the war. Similarly, does not appear to be any changes in arms supplying or anything along those lines. So honestly, no news here. Lots of news agencies are covering this and, kind of various opinions on how this is going to play out, but I couldn't possibly guess whether, how this is ultimately going to play out with the Ukraine war and their long-term relationship. All right, I'm actually going to jump to this one first. So this is about what's going on in France with their pensions. So Macron, the French president, effectively took what it would be similar in the U.S. as an executive order in order to raise the retirement age for their pension system from 62 to 64. Now, their pension system is a little bit more involved in a bigger program than our Social Security here, but it's kind of somewhat the equivalent of kind of raising full retirement age, or imagine even like early retirement age from 62 to 64. And it has been wildly unpopular. So they've got all sorts of strikes and public protests going on in France. Let me start what I'm about to say with saying I don't know anything about French economics, right? I have no clue about their budget, about anything along those lines. But this to me has been very interesting to watch because I don't think anyone thinks that this is going to be popular, right? Macron, I believe his first name is Emmanuel Macron. Yep. I don't think he's building a great re-election campaign over the fact that he raised full retirement age from 62 to 64. Is it probably necessary? My guess in this world where people live longer and populations are starting to get top heavy, meaning there's more people in the retirement age bracket than are working, or more than by ratio that have been working previously, that this is probably necessary, right? Why would he do it if it wasn't very important for the system, right? So in order for the system to last, there's you either got to increase the tax that you're taking in order to support it, or you got to pay out less, right? Which means often raising full retirement age or paying less. So do I feel bad for the French people, especially those that others before them retired earlier? I guess so, but at the same time, what I really see here is there's a lot of things here in the U.S. that cost money that we have to either raise more taxes or cut, and that's just the plain and simple. If you watch any of my videos, you know my stance on taxes. They either have to go up or we have to stop spending this much money, right? I mean, it's just the simple truth. There's really no other way around that. So my hat is honestly kind of off to Emmanuel Macron here for what he's doing. Again, I don't know anything about it other than he's doing something wildly unpopular that is probably necessary. So I hope it works out for the French people. All right, this is kind of interesting. So it's funny because the headline here trying to be the Wall Street Journal, I think, does a really good job of not being sensationalized. But the headline here is home prices fell in February for the first time in 11 years, meaning they're measuring this over a year. So, home prices now are lower than they were a year ago. And that is the first time that has occurred in 11 years, almost assuredly due to the raise in interest rates slowing down the housing market. However, the little subtitle here, U.S. sale of existing homes jumps 14.5% from prior month. And that's because the rest of this article explains that the housing market is honestly doing just fine. So this is U.S. home sales by price range change. So effectively number of sales down. But then I'm going to jump down to this one. So this is what that subtitle is talking about, U.S. existing home sales. Look at this big jump. This happened because mortgage rates dropped last month. They topped out around 7. They're about 6.5 right now. And I think people are seeing the light on the end of the tunnel. So like a lot of people, you'd say, okay, mortgage rates are 7%. If I don't want to buy, a home and have to put a 30-year mortgage rate at 7%, right? Well, we're pretty likely that mortgage rates in the next 6 to 18 years are going to drop below, let's say 5%. Will they get back below 4 like they were for so long? Maybe not. You always refinance during that time, right? So as long as interest rates are expected to go back down, buying at a high interest rate is not necessarily the disaster that everyone makes it out to be. This is about distribution of homes, just kind of showing cost. This, of course, so the darker is more expensive. You can see here that the portion of expensive homes in the West, by the West, read California. That's where the vast majority of the population base is, or on the coast, Oregon, Washington as well, versus the Midwest and the South, where they're kind of cheaper. This kind of surprised me in the Northeast because Northeast has always been classically a very expensive place, but looking a little bit more like kind of the average of the country. So that's good to see. They actually even talk about Boise in here. Boise is obviously a big city here in Idaho that has seen a ton of growth, and they talk about how prices have come down in Boise. Really, this just goes on to talk about the fact that the buyers are still there. It's just not a lot of people are selling their homes, right? So covered this, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, where we talk about, kind of the major drivers of the housing market. But the housing market is not falling apart like everyone kind of expected it to due to interest rates going up. Again, another pressure on the Fed. The Fed has a very, very tough and yet very, very important decision looming today and tomorrow as to whether to raise interest rates in the housing market, the labor market, the situation with the banks that cannot be ignored going on. So very, very tough job. I'm glad I don't have it, but I am extremely curious to see what they say. And we will literally probably know that within a few hours here. So I hope this has been informative. If you do like these videos, please subscribe to the channel so that you can, kind of be notified when content comes up. And if you enjoyed it, please like the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you.